Dumelang Batho Babantle, welcome back to my channel. It's Hope Makola here, and I am super stoked to have you guys back on my channel. Please don't forget to subscribe, put on your notification bell, and comment down below. Please be kind. Words do hurt. Let's lead with kindness. So, without any further ado, let's get into my next video. Okay, today I want to talk about being a widow at the age of 24. It was not easy, and it was a build-up of a lot of things for leading up to even the passing of my late husband. We were only married for 5 years, the year he passed, and I promise you it was not easy. We're actually heading into our fifth year anniversary. He passed away in April, and our 5-year anniversary would have been on the 12th of June. So it was just in a good 2 months' time. So it was not easy. I mean, where to start? I was 5 months pregnant when I lost my first husband. He was in a car accident on the 16th of April. The 18th of April, and we then buried him a week later, 18th of April, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and we buried him on the 25th of April of 2009. It was a Friday when we buried him, and it was a Friday when he passed. So just to basically, I'm not going to be long in this video. I don't want to I've really gone into quite a lengthy 2 videos. You've seen the one of married young in a cult, and also married life in a cult. So this is just basically how I was a widow in the cult of William Branham, and at a young age of 24, and I was 5 months pregnant. So the leading up to this whole madness, I call it, because there were so many things that were happening at the time in our marriage. There were so many things that just led up to me losing my husband. It was not easy. 13 years later, guys, 13 years later, it still hurts just the same. I still miss him just the same. If anybody says to you, you get over it, is lying. You never do get over losing your first love, actually. You never get over losing a loved one, for that matter of fact, All you do really is you learn to live alongside the hurt, the missing, sometimes the anger, sometimes the happiness of having lost a loved one. So funny enough, I must actually share a little story whereby when we first found out we're pregnant, I think about 2-3 weeks later, he brought me a magazine, like pregnancy magazines. You guys are getting so excited. You're wanting to learn about, we are pregnant. We want to find out the do's and the don'ts, things to do when you're pregnant, things not to do, what things to eat. Those magazines that tell you everything and you hardly ever even do any of the things that they're telling you. I got into that, and the first page that I opened, I think it was the Papa and Mama's magazine or something of that sort. I can't even remember the title. And I remember reading an article and I burst out crying. It was a Saturday morning, and he says to me, "Jesus, this pregnancy hormones, are you okay?" He was lying next to me in bed. We'd always love to sit in on a Saturday. A Saturday morning, we'd just lie in bed endlessly. And I said to him, "Oh my gosh, Letu," we used to call each other Letu. I said, "Oh my gosh, Letu, can you believe it? This lady lost her husband when she was 7 months pregnant. and I don't want to lose you. And I remember him hugging me and holding me close and kissing and rubbing on my belly and saying, babe, I'm not going anywhere. You're not going to lose me, Letu. We're in this. We're going to raise our beautiful daughter. We're going to raise her together. And I just can't wait. He was so excited, about our pregnancy. And fast forward, the last 3D scan we went to at our gynae, our little baby, we had already named her a good 2.5 years into our marriage. Our little baby girl, Shiloh, was constantly in the 3D scan waving and waving and waving. And she was waving in the direction where her dad was sitting, and it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. And he was so excited. I remember him calling one of his best friends and saying, yo, dude, guess what? Just sitting here looking at looking at our baby, and she's, you know what they say, it takes a real gentleman to produce a baby girl, So they would always have a joke about it for the longest of times. Because this friend of his had a son, and I think had another son on the way, or they'd just gotten a son. So there was always an inside joke between the two of them. Nonetheless, fast forward to that whole time. That was the last time he got to see his unborn baby, and that was the only time that our unborn baby got to see her father. So I'm gonna try not to cry because I just want to get my message across, so basically, fast forward then, leading up to the accident, I was with two friends of mine, very lovely ladies. They are still in the message. And they were at my place. Their husbands had actually dropped them off. Actually, not have dropped them off. They were all going to come visit. And we spent the whole night, guys, just reminiscing. This is the night leading up to my husband's death. And we spent the whole night just reminiscing and talking about him. It was so weird. It was like, I don't know. It was like, in hindsight, after we all found out what had happened, it was like we were bidding him farewell, And I remember him calling me at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And he said, babe, you know what, Letu, I am tired. Letu, I am so tired. I'm so tired of just everything. This life is so stressful. I'm so tired of just having this spiritual tug inside of me, the spiritual warfare inside of me, of obviously not being in the message anymore, and my life, the way things are panning out, like so many questions. And he just said, I'm so tired, I just want to go home, and I just obviously didn't read much into it. And him saying, he didn't say, I'm coming home. He said, I just want to go home, And I remember saying, oh, okay, cool. Later, I'll see you later. You do know that we have people coming over, So I didn't read much into it, only to find out that at the memorial service, one of his friends shared a story. Only to find out that later one of his friends actually shared a testimony of having spoken with him. This was at the memorial service. He shared a testimony of having spoken to him about an hour before what was the estimated time of his death later on, that we found out. And he had a long conversation with him. And in this conversation, my late hubby shared a story saying, you know what, my dear brother, in God's garden, we are all different flowers, and he chooses to pluck us out at his appointed time. We don't know the time, we don't know the date, we don't know how, we don't know the year, but he plucks us out of his garden at any time that he chooses to. And his friend at the time, obviously again, not thinking much of it, they were just sharing upon God's words and thoughts, and this is what came through from my late husband's side. Guys, this was an hour before him losing his life in a car accident. It was a very, very bad car accident. And needless to say, I had spoken to him about 6 hours before, and he had just he was also texting me that he's on his way home. But like, I was now getting anxious because I'm like, you keep saying you're on your way home, but you're not getting here. And when I then tried to call him about 2 hours after our conversation at 3 p.m., so that would have been about 5 p.m., he was not answering his phone. What the paramedics said is that the estimated time of death was around 9:30 or 10 p.m. So he was, at the time, he was saying he's on his way home, he's coming, but he was out with colleagues, work colleagues, and needless to say, he was in a very, very terrible car accident. He tried to come out of his car. Actually, at the time he was driving my car, funny enough, he had left his car that morning and he decided to just take my car and he drove out with it. And that said, it was actually another thing, you know, when he gave me a hug that morning, I was hugging and kissing my husband for the last time. And I remember him just looking so different. There was just something different about him. I don't know if it was a very pure, I don't want to say young, but there was a very pure, sober look to him that morning, and he was not keeping eye contact. He was very like quiet, and yeah, I don't know, do you think he knew? I don't know these things. Do people know, or do they kind of like have a feeling when death is at the door, I guess? So he did come out of the car to try and crawl to the side of the road to try and get help. And there was a lady who I'll never know of or meet her, but thank you to that woman who called the paramedics. This was around 11 or 12 o'clock, midnight, who called the paramedics and said that they've just driven past a car on this sharp bend on it was actually by Witkoppenside, just after the Life Clinic on Cedar Road, and they'd just driven past a car, and a car was overturned on the side of the road, and can help go through. And yeah, within about 30-45 minutes the paramedics were on the scene, and I was then at the time with both of my girlfriends. The husbands decided to then leave, and they said, no, we can't leave Hope alone in her state. You guys can stay with her and we will pick you guys up tomorrow, and we can maybe have a braai or chill when Hope's husband returns. I'm trying not to use his name, and it's so hard not to use his name, because I have to be respectful. I have to be respectful of my late husband's family. I have to be respectful, So it's not easy relaying this whole story, and I can't say his name, but people that are close to me would know his name and obviously know him. So as the phone call came in from the paramedics, I think at about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. That time we had just left with my girlfriends. I'd said, okay guys, good night. They were sleeping in the guest room. I was sleeping in my room, and they just heard a scream. I just screamed, and they didn't even question. They barged into the room. One of my girlfriends later on relays that she thought that me and my husband were having a fight. And they barged into the room, and I kept on saying, guys, I can't talk to the paramedics. Please talk to them. Give them the address, because they were asking me about the address. And the thing that got me in a state was the paramedics said, we need your address because we don't discuss these kind of things over the phone. Guys, I already knew in my heart, I knew. They first asked me, are we speaking to Mrs. Glady? That was my previous surname. are we speaking to Mrs. Glady? And I said yes. And they said, we don't discuss these kind of things over the phone. Please, can you give us your address so that we can come over and discuss something with you. I knew, and they basically said, look, we found your car. Your car was in an accident. How we traced your numbers was linked to the tracker. The tracker was, the tracking device was obviously activated when the accident happened, and that's how they got my details. So they said, your car was in an accident, and we don't discuss these things over the phone. Can you please confirm your address? So by that time, I'm screaming. I'm in a state. I gave the phone over to one of my friends, and they then gave them the address. They read it over the text that I'd sent them the previous day before they came over. And yeah, they were there at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. They came over, and they came in those in the pathology cars. And I'll never forget that day. They had a black bag in their hands when I answered the door, and it had all of the belongings, my husband's belongings that they found on the scene. It had he wore glasses. It had his glasses on in there. Well, they were already smashed. They didn't find any laptops and things like that on the scene. Apparently people had stolen, because I then asked, where's the stuff? But apparently they say people on the scene, like, if they kind of rummaged through things. My husband's wallet was not with him. His watch was taken off. His pair of shoes were taken off. But one thing though, going back to, he took my car, and it was actually a good thing that he took my car, because his car that he left had a lot of his belongings and memorabilia. I still have his golf clubs that were left in his car. I still have a lot of trinkets that I'm obviously going to give on to our daughter. And yeah, guys, that's how it happened. I was then, a widow at 24. My daughter, obviously, till to date, has never gotten to meet her dad. She was born on the 16th of August, the year of 2009. April, May, June, July, August. That is 4 months, obviously, after her father passed away. And how I knew that my late husband was with us in the delivery room as our little baby girl came into the world. Guess what? One of the nurses started humming one of my late husband's favorite hymns. I will never forget it. I burst out into tears, and she asked me, "Are you okay? Are you still feeling pains? You've given birth to a beautiful baby." And at the time, his mother was with me in the delivery room. And at the time, we both looked at each other, because she also kind of, knew that this was one of his favorite hymns. But I said to the nurse, "This is one of my late husband's favorite hymns." And she said, "What? Are you telling me is this the father of this child?" And I said, "Yes." And you humming it is a confirmation that he is in this room with us right now. So yeah, guys, on that note, thank you for tuning in and allowing me to share my story with you. May you all have a blessed weekend. I'm hoping to post this as soon as possible. Okay. I love you all, and God bless you.